So, as we are now a little bit over a month before the season begin, I am going to start doing video that's going to be relating for this upcoming season, and that I'm going to be doing some video such as looking at each team who exactly is going to be the breakout and MVP type of player of each respective team, as I'm going to be doing in this video. And then I will, of course, will do videos looking at players that needs to have a bounce back year for each team, and then even go into looking at coaching and look at each head coach and where exactly are they in terms of the hot seat index. And then most importantly, right near when the season is about to begin, I of course will make my prediction of the standings, but also look at the expectation index and what is each team expectation heading into this 2021 season. But as I said, I am going to today do the video where I'm going to look at each team breakout slash MVP type of player from their team. So each of these players are either going to be breakout stars for their team, or they're going to be probably the best player for their team heading into this upcoming season. And I'm actually going to just do the Eastern Conference today, as tomorrow I'll do the Western Conference version of looking at each team who is going to be the breakout and an MVP type of player for their team heading into this upcoming season. And we start off with Atlanta United, and I am going to say Joseph Martinez. And I just realized this pen is not working. So I'm going to just quickly switch this one and hope that this one works. So yeah, for Atlanta, it's going to be Joseph Martinez, and it's pretty obvious that Joseph Martinez is going to be most likely the MVP, or the player that's going to have a breakout year, especially the fact that, I think heading into this upcoming season, he is probably even more hungry to trying to score goals and potentially even win the Golden Boot heading into this upcoming season, coming off of a torn ACL that kept him out for the entire part of last season. And I'm even going to just say that I predict Joseph Martinez is going to win comeback player of the year. Like, if he is going to put up the similar amount of number of goals that he has scored before he suffered that torn ACL last season, no doubt he's going to be not just an MVP type of player, but definitely is going to be the player that is going to win comeback player of the year. But moving on to the Chicago Fire, so I decided to go with Robert Barrich as a player that is going to be the MVP slash breakout player for the Fire. Now, last season, Barrich definitely showed why, when the Fire decided to pay big money on him and really trust him to be their number 9 player that is going to be scoring the goal, and that he proved that he can, of course, do that. Now, there is a bit of a risk where I will say that, we don't know exactly if Barrich can continue that good form that he had, especially near the latter part of the season when he was really on fire for this team. No pun intended, by the way. But yeah, I'm still going to say it's Barrich that's going to be the guy that's going to be the MVP type of player for this team. Although I will give an honorable mention to Alvaro Madron, who I think he is going to be a guy that's going to continue to be the main distributor, especially now that Jordi Mihailovic is no longer with this team. I think he's going to be really stepping in more of that number 10 role and be that playmaker for the team that will feed the ball to Robert Barrich to score the goal for the Fire this season. Now, for FC Cincinnati, I am actually going to go with a bit of a surprising one, but I'll explain why exactly I decided to go with Frankie Maya and why I predict he's going to have a breakout year. So there's no doubt that there is definitely some uncertainty in terms of Amaya's future with FC Cincinnati. We heard this offseason where he was definitely not happy. The fact that he is staying with FC Cincinnati, and he even go as far as demanding a trade to potentially go somewhere else, either in MLS or maybe make the jump to Europe, because he doesn't want to be part of a wooden spoon team, which it's understandable. I mean, this kid definitely has a lot of talent, and it's a shame that he is stuck with the back-to-back wooden spoon winner that is FC Cincinnati. But in order for him to really get the attention of maybe a couple of these MLS teams that is looking to try to get Amaya, or even some European team, he needs to have a breakout year. And last season, we definitely saw some promising kind of play from him last year, where he could definitely fulfill the potential that he had when he came to Cincinnati as the first round or the first pick in the 2019, or is it 2019 or 2020? I think it was 2019 draft, and we shall see whether or not if he can, of course, continue to do that, or in this case, I expect he's going to continue to do that, and if he is going to be having a breakout year, it would be very interesting to see what FC Cincinnati is going to do, because as I said, he's not happy about being with this team right now, and if he is going to get some offer to get out of the team, he will definitely accept it. Now, moving on to Columbus, I am going to say Jersey Zardes. Now, Columbus is a bit of a tough one, and you're going to see with some of these Eastern Conference teams that made the playoffs and potentially, or not potentially, but these teams actually went deep into the playoffs, and there was a lot of star player from their team, is just going to make it a little bit tougher for me to choose who exactly is going to be that MVP type of player and going to have a breakout year. In the case of the Columbus Crew, they are the defending champ, and there's definitely a lot of guys that I could have picked. I could have gone with Pedro Santos. I could have even gone with the MLS Cup MVP, that is Lucas Arian. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Jersey Zardes. And for Zardes, for these past couple of years, no doubt he has really revitalized his career and has really becoming one of the best striker in this league. But I think this season, this probably could be even a more important season than previous year, because this is the year when the U.S. men's national team is going to be going to participate in the Gold Cup and also in the World Cup qualifying. And Zardes is a guy that he is definitely on the fringe of potentially making to the U.S. men's national team. But if he is going to potentially get accepted into Berhalter's squad, and maybe even be a factor for this U.S. men's national team going up front, he's definitely going to have a big year, and I think he's definitely going to do it because he has shown it in the past couple of years. So yeah, for Jersey Zardes, I think he is going to be the MVP and the breakout player for this Crew team. But moving on to DC United, I am actually going to go with a bit of a surprising one, and I'm going to go with Griffin Yao. So for those of you that don't know who exactly this guy is, he is actually a young kid that came out of the DC United Academy and really kind of had a bit of a breakout year last season when he was started to banging the goals, including the first one, which was an absolute beauty of a goal. And I forgot which game that was when he scored that amazing goal for DC United, and it was also late in the game too, so it was a crucial goal that he scored for his team. But when I look at how Griffin Yao played last season, and even with limited minutes, something tells me he is definitely a guy that we should watch out for, and a guy that could definitely be a very talented player in the league. But yeah, moving on. For Inter Miami, I am going to go with Rodolfo Pizarro. Now, when I do a video where I'm going to look at each team in terms of players that needs to have a bounce back year for each MLS team, for some reason, I don't know why I can't put the words here. There we go. So when I do a video where I'm going to look at each team in terms of players that needs to have a bounce back year, Pizarro is definitely going to be on my short list as a player that could potentially need a bounce back year for Inter Miami. Well, technically, there's a lot of players for this team that needs to have a bounce back year. But for a player that I think could have a breakout year, as I mentioned, I'm going to go with Pizarro. And, I know last season he had an okay season with Miami, but definitely not as good as what Miami was hoping for, and especially the amount that they had to pay Rayados in order to acquire him. And that I hope this season, maybe last year the reason why he kind of had a rough year was the fact that he was just kind of settled in with the team, and also with how disjointed Miami was last year. Maybe that was kind of the reason why he kind of struggled with this team. But, hopefully this year, maybe Inter Miami is not going to be so dysfunctional, and there actually is going to be a structure in this team. And if that is going to be the case, I think Pizarro will definitely show that he is worth the amount that Inter Miami was able to pay Rayados just a year ago. But obviously that's a big ask if the structure of this team is going to be much better, because as we know, they of course hire Phil Neville, and yeah, I mentioned before, I still don't understand why they decide to hire a guy that has no experience in terms of coaching in the club level, and he's about to head to a team that is basically dysfunctional, and he is expected to try to make this team as dysfunctional and actually try to find a structure into this team. Now, for Montreal, I am going to go with Georgi Mihailovic, and I just realized I put Montreal Impact here. So I'm just going to erase that and instead put CF Montreal. Again, it's going to happen multiple times where I accidentally put the Impact name, even though they're no longer called the Montreal Impact. But for Montreal, I am going to go with Georgi Mihailovic as the player that is going to be the breakout star. And I actually need to look at on my screen here, or look at my notebook here, as I wrote all these names on the list to see if I actually spell his name correctly. Now looks like there's an I here. Let's see. Milailhovic. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Georgi Mihailovic is the player that I think is going to be having a breakout year, an MVP type of year. I mean, he kind of had that with Chicago last season with a breakout year and finished as the top assist leader for that team, and it's no surprise that Montreal, when they saw that, they definitely want to acquire him, and they paid a huge amount of money in order to acquire him from the Chicago Fire, and they're really hoping that that amount of money that they paid the Fire to get Georgi Mihailovic will pay off, and that he's going to have another amazing year. And if he does have another amazing year, he could definitely not only get back into the discussion of potentially be part of the U.S. men's national team, but also maybe even draw more interest in Europe, that he could potentially make the jump to Europe heading to the end of next season. But moving on now to Nashville, I'm going to go with Walker Zimmerman, and I decided to go with a safe pick with Nashville, because I did have a couple of players that I was thinking maybe could be a breakout star for this Nashville team, but in the end, I'm going to go with the safe pick and say that Walker Zimmerman is definitely going to be their best player once again, and going to be an absolute rock in terms of the defense, and he's definitely also going to be, in my opinion, the favorite to potentially win Defender of the Year again, and that yeah, you know, if he can once again be such a lockdown defender like he did last season, there's no doubt that he's going to definitely win the award again. But moving on to New England, and again, I'm going to go with another safe pick with this, because I had a couple of players that I did think for the Revs to be a breakout player for this team, but in the end, I'm going to go with Matt Turner, who, you know, he came oh so close in terms of winning goalkeeper of the year last season, and I really think if he can potentially have another decent year, or even a better year than last season in terms of the goalkeeping position, he definitely is going to win goalkeeper of the year. And so far, he's kind of maybe already got off to a good start after what we saw in that January camp and in that game against Trinidad and Tobago, where, yes, you know, he didn't really do much in that game, but he did have that crucial penalty kick save against Trinidad and Tobago. And, you know, when you're a goalkeeper and you're able to make a key penalty save, even if the game is kind of out of reach, that has to give you a lot of confidence in that. I think that is going to be something that could potentially help Matt Turner to carry that momentum that he had last season into this year. Now, for the Red Bulls, this one is pretty easy. It's obviously going to be Caden Clark, who last season is probably a kid that just kind of came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, with him scoring banger goals game after game, he is now probably one of the most talked about hot prospect in MLS, and I expect he's going to continue to do that heading into the second season. I mean, I know we have seen before where when we see players that kind of came out of nowhere and all of a sudden he become a hot prospect around MLS, and the hype level is definitely surround them, that not all of those players tends to do well heading into the second year and maybe carry into that hype. But something tells me Caden Clark could potentially do that, and that he is definitely going to be one of the more important players for this Red Bulls team, and a guy that is another player that I think could potentially be sold heading into next offseason for a big sum of money, and another their young hot prospect American that came out of the academy and eventually make their jump to Europe in a very short time. But moving on to NYCFC. And for NYCFC, there were definitely, again, a couple of guys that I could have picked. But in the end, I'm going to go with Maxine Morales, who I think this might be the last season for Maxine Morales, knowing the fact that he is starting to get up to age, but also the fact that with those injury concerns, you just wonder eventually, as it looks like for some reason the screen is a little bit foggy there. Oh, there we go. As I mentioned with Maxime Morales, with him getting up to his age and the fact that, those injury issue that he's been having for the past couple of years, you wonder, is this going to be potentially his last season? But that being said, when he does healthy, he is still showing why he is the most important player for this NYCFC team and still providing the assists. So it's no surprise that I decided to choose him as the player that is not only going to have a breakout year, but is going to be the most important player for this NYCFC team. And they better hope that he's not going to be spending more time on the IR than actually playing for this upcoming season. Now, moving on into Orlando City. And this is another team that I actually had a really tough time choosing who exactly is going to be the player that's going to be a breakout kind of MVP type of player for their respective team, because there's really a lot of players that I could have chosen. I actually kind of had to think this through a little bit of either choosing Mauricio Pereira as the player that I put here on the board, or Chris Muter, who had an incredible season, or even maybe Nani last year. And also, thankfully, I didn't have to even think about potentially putting Daryl DK onto this list, because DK, even though he is still part of Orlando City and that he's only on loan with Barnsley, I'm going to assume most likely if he does well with Barnsley, which I heard he is doing very well with that team, scoring goals in the first couple of games, I'm assuming most likely he's not going to be an Orlando City player anymore. So yeah, in the end, I decided to choose with Pereira, mainly because he was second on the list in terms of the assist leader for the team last season. But I also think that when he was with this Orlando City team, you can see they definitely play so much better when he is there compared to when he's not in the starting 11 in this team. And when you have a player that tends to make your team better when he's there compared to when he's not there, he's probably going to be a very important player, and that it's no surprise that I think that is kind of the difference why I kind of chose Pereira instead of choosing Chris Muter, because even if Orlando City don't have Chris Muter, I think they can still do decently. And it showed near the latter part of the playoffs when Chris Muter was kind of a little bit ice cold heading into the playoffs. They still look very decent going forward on the attacking end. But moving on to the Philadelphia Union, I am going to go with Paxton Aronson. And this is another team I had a really tough time thinking about who exactly I am actually going to put as a breakout player, because you can definitely look at all these academy players that coming out of the Union for this upcoming season that most likely is going to be in the starting 11, and you could have easily put him in there. But in the end, I'm going to go with Aronson, or actually Paxton Aronson specifically, who is the brother of Brendan Aronson. And again, that is kind of part of why I decided to put him as one of the breakout player. But I think the other part is that there is definitely a lot of hype, and that there is a lot of people saying that Paxton Aronson could even be better than what his brother is when he was playing with the Union. And if that, of course, is going to be the case, boy, oh boy, we're going to have another player that is going to be not only be a decent player for the Union, but he could definitely be sold off even more than what his brother Brendan Aronson that just got sold off to the Union heading into last season. So yeah, you know, I definitely believe in the hype, the fact that he's going to do very well with this team, and definitely could replace every inch of quality that his brother basically left with this team from this last off season. But now moving on into the last team that I am going to pick as the players that I think is going to be a breakout MVP type of player. And the last one, I'm going to go with Alejandro Posuela. And again, I decided to go with a bit of a safe pick on this because it's pretty clear that the defending MVP player of the year is going to be the most important player for this TFC team. Although, if TFC is able to get Rafael Santos board, then that discussion could be a little bit different, and that maybe I would say Santos board could potentially be the guy that is going to be the breakout player and the MVP for this TFC team. But as of now, it's still going to be Alejandro Posuela, who's not only the fact that he is the main assist player and the main playmaker to this team, but he also is a guy that can score some clutch goal, and kind of almost similar to a Sebastian Giovinco type of player that TFC got from a couple of years ago. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for my first part in terms of looking at players that I think for each team that's going to be having a breakout or MVP type of year. As I said, tomorrow I am going to do the Western Conference version, but let me know in the comments below, do you agree with this list, and if there's a couple of players that you think should belong on this list, or if there is a player from any of these teams that should be a player that you think could have a breakout / MVP type of year. Let me know in the comments below. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.